Andrea Earle, and this is the Building Classroom Community Podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to share some of my strategies for keeping students interested and engaged in the week before winter break. Hope you enjoy. We all know that the week before winter break is a little bit crazy as we rush to get projects completed, collect missing and late work, and complete those report cards. Things can get a little hectic, and students are getting antsy because they know a break is coming. So how do you keep students engaged? One of the things that I stress with teachers I support is to keep consistency. Don't just throw everything you do, all your routines out the window because it's the week before winter break, but do change them up a little bit. You know your class best and you know how much that they can deal with, but the more consistency you keep, the easier things will be for you. So let's start with a few of my go-to activities. One of my go-to week before winter break activities is having students create holiday cards. As a math teacher, the cover would always be maybe a tessellation. So students are learning some skill, some math concept, and then applying it to the card they're creating. The cards can be for friends, family members, could be for classmates. Sometimes I've had students draw a name out of a hat, and that's the classmate they give their card to. Or it could be they could make cards to take to maybe a senior center. I'm always mindful during the holidays that there are some students who don't celebrate or celebrate differently than I do. So I also encourage them to make a thank you card instead of a holiday card. And they can thank anyone, a family member, friend, teacher, it doesn't matter. The whole purpose of the activity is really the math instruction that goes with it, building that tessellation, coloring it, and understanding the meaning. Or perhaps in 8th grade, you could do rotations and translations. In younger grades, you could have students plot points that create some kind of holiday design. And then, of course, the writing inside. And we know with my students, I stress that because it's something you're giving to someone else, that the spelling and punctuation needs to be good, the handwriting needs to be nice. So I'm building in my curriculum skills, the skills that I want them to develop into this more fun project. Another idea for the week before winter break is to have students create a year in review book. They could review the whole previous calendar year. I like to give students a template, either in Book Creator or just in Google Slides, and the pages have prompts on them. One page might say my favorite things, and then I just list out color, food, animal, family member. It can be anything. Sport, subject in school, friend. Another page might ask them to reflect on their learning for the year. What's one thing they learned and found really interesting? Maybe what's one thing they're struggling with and they want to get better at? Another page might what makes them happy. And another page might be a goal setting page for the coming year. Really, it can be anything you want, but by creating these different pages and having students focus on different things, you could have students complete a page or two a day. Pictures can be hand-drawn and scanned in, or they could be real photographs that the students take, or digital art. Anything goes. But the whole idea is that you're taking whatever your curriculum standards again, and you're building them into kind of a more of a fun and reflective type of activity. I also like to have students share their books. You can either print them out or save them digitally. But my personal favorite is I have students record themselves reading their books. And then I send those recordings home to their parents. While students may be a little self-conscious now, they're going to love it when they're older and they listen back to their younger selves. Now, one thing I don't like to do in that week before break is to have parties or have a party just for the sake of having a party. Because we know that time with our students is limited. We only have a few hours every day. There's a lot to get in, a lot to cover, and a lot we want to do with our students. So I'm not against parties, but I always tie them into what we're learning. So a couple years ago, we were working on note-taking skills. And I really wanted students to understand how to take notes, how to use their notes to write a summary. We were using the EduProtocol called Cyber Sandwich. In Cyber Sandwich, both partners read the same text. They take their own notes, compare their notes, and then go back and write their own summaries. So for fun, I picked texts about the history of ice cream. Low cognitive demand, high interest. Students took their notes on the history of ice cream. They then wrote their own claims about which flavor was better. We had a little tournament to decide which flavor was the most popular as a class. And at the end of the week-long activities focused on ice cream, students got to make ice cream. We used the recipe where you make it in an individual Ziploc bag, and the kids have to shake it for a while. And once the ice cream was done, they were able to add toppings, have ice cream sundaes, and it was just a lot of fun. Totally tied into my curriculum. A lot of people call that stealth learning, but a lot of skills were involved in all of those activities. I also am not a believer in just showing movies the last few days. To me, that's a total waste of time. Now, if it's a movie that follows up from a book that we've read together or that coordinates with a unit of study, I chunk that movie into parts, showing no more than 20 minutes, maybe 30 at a time. More than that, and students are going to lose interest. I also make sure there's some type of interaction based on the movie after the watching, so that they're actively watching. Perhaps they're going to compare and contrast the main character from the book and the main character from the movie and see if there's any differences that they notice. They could compare and contrast the setting, what they thought the setting would look like, and how the producers of the movie depicted the setting. Lots of ways that you can tie in active learning with watching a movie, but just to put a movie on, I'm not a fan. Another fun activity for that week, if you want the students to be more active, of course, is to have a game day where students can bring in games from home, board games, and play with each other. Now, in order to set up a game day situation, I've spent time during the semester teaching students how to play various board games. I spend time on Yahtzee, on checkers, chess if they want to learn, sometimes Chinese checkers, pickup sticks, dominoes, any games that I found maybe at the dollar store. So I have a selection of in my classroom. But then on game day, I let students bring their own games as well, so they all have something to play. Again, I limit the game playing time to maybe 45 minutes to an hour. So there's a set amount of time for students to be actively engaged before they're getting antsy. Another fun thing I used to do when I taught the lower grades is we do pajama day. And all the students would come to school in their pajamas. They could bring a stuffed animal and their favorite book or game. And we'd take turns reading and doing a lot of activities around literacy. Just by putting students in their pajamas, pushing back the tables, just gave a different vibe to the room. And again, really helped them build community. As students were sharing their books with each other, I would find students across the room going, hey, what book are you reading? And want to go over to the other side of the room, right? To talk to students who maybe had something different. With older students, you might want to take the time and have students do a passion project. something kind of based along the Google 20% time, where students pick a topic that they want to learn more about. It can be anything. One year I had a student that wanted to learn about motorcycle racing, and I had another that wanted to learn how to bake the perfect cake. They learn about that thing, they document their learning journey, what videos they watched, who they talked to, how they learned that skill. Then they produce some kind of project or display, show the class what they learned. Now, I have had situations where students have actually then come and taught the class the skill that they were learned, and that's another thing you could do. Invite some students to showcase something they are good at and let them teach the class. One year I had a special ed student who was very, very quiet in class, but he made the most amazing origami. Every week he would bring me a new origami animal. So during the week before break, I asked him if he would like to come and teach the class about origami. He said yes. So I bought a bunch of origami paper, and he spent, well, he was supposed to spend a half an hour teaching the class, but he ended up teaching a new animal every day for the whole week. The other students were entranced by his skill, and it really helped him bond with the class. It was a student that didn't talk a lot, was very introverted, but by sharing his special talent, if you will, other students were able to connect with him. Maybe you have some students with special talents that you don't know about. Ask. You just never know what your students are good at. Something else I like to do, especially if the break butts up to report card time, I have students look at their grades and really reflect on their work for the semester, what they did well, what they might want to do better in the future, and I ask them to think of some ways I might be able to support them. I also like to ask them which activities in class they found the most beneficial and which ones they really didn't feel helped them very much. Now, as a teacher, you have to be very careful when you ask those questions. Sometimes you might not like what you hear, but students are very honest. And if you ask them with sincerity and you've spent the semester building community among your learners, they're going to be honest with you. And their honesty can help make you a better teacher. One year when I asked students these questions, one of the girls wrote, "I like that you don't have a teacher's pet." And I was kind of, what do you mean I don't have a teacher's pet? I mean, I know what a teacher's pet is, but I'm like, what do you mean? She said, "You don't play favorites. There's no one student that's called on more or allowed to participate more or get special treatment." And she really appreciated that. Well, I took that to heart, and I'm very conscious of not having a favorite student. Back to the party idea. One year, my students really wanted a pizza party. So I planned a week's worth of lessons based on pizza. We used pizza for fractions. We used pizza for layering. They built pizzas with Google Slides and learned about the layers and how to layer elements. Now with Canva and Adobe Express for Education, that would be a really fun lesson to teach students about developing graphics and layering elements in an image, in a design. Then we had to figure out how much pizza to order for the class and what toppings we were going to have. So the students did surveys to find out the favorite toppings. They had to figure out how many pieces of pizza, how many slices of pizza each student was anticipating eating. Then they had to calculate the cost of the pizza, and they had to decide where to order it from. To do this activity, I divided the students into teams, and each team had to do their own calculations and collect their own data. One of the teams decided that it would be easier and less work if each team researched one pizza place near the school, and then they would combine their data. Not my idea, their idea, spot on. But by giving students agency to explore the topic, they came up with that idea. Once they had all the prices and the costs and the cost per student, because I was asking students to, if they could donate towards the pizza, that would be great. If not, I would cover the balance. But they figured out the costs of the different pizza places. But a couple teams added information along with the cost about the quality of the pizza. So one team presented the restaurant that they had researched. They showed the cost, and the cost was very reasonable, definitely on the lower end. But they said that it was not their recommendation to use that particular pizza restaurant because they didn't like the pizza. They said that if you eat it in store, it's delicious, but if you take it out, it gets cold really fast. And so it wouldn't be good for a pizza party with the class. So much creativity and critical thinking went into planning a pizza party. So I want you to think about, how can you make the most out of that week before winter break? That week where you're antsy, your kids are antsy, everyone knows things are concluding. Think about how you're going to make the most of that time, because time with our students is precious. We need to make the most of every minute. And when all the craziness is over and you shut off the lights, I hope that you'll take time for yourself. Relax, recharge, and do something fun. I hope you have a peaceful and a relaxing winter break.